by the year 2050, the San Diego beaches are stand to lose 50 to 100 feet of their beach.
Wow.
Del Mar did their own study that concluded that their beaches could be underwater by 2060.
Wow.
But essentially the entire organization is arced around empowering everyday people to protect what they love, which is our ocean, waves, and beaches in this case. When you watch the news or read your Facebook feed of doom and gloom stuff, it kind of seems like you're a little powerless to do anything about it as an individual, these huge international global problems. And so the way we respond is by empowering people to act locally and really get involved and realize that the stuff you can do locally has an effect. You know, it starts here and then it kind of goes up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Life to the Max podcast. I am here with my incredible host, Janna Breslin.
And
I'm
Evan DeMarco.
We're going to get that one down.
We're going to get, yeah, the names are important.
So earlier today, we had the pleasure of interviewing the kind of executive director on the fin, the surf fin that we got to surf on all morning. And they have an interesting collaboration with a group here in San Diego, your stomping ground. So we get to really kind of expand on our whole topic of ocean conservation today. And so with that in mind, we are excited to introduce
Mitch Silverstein.
Or Stein, depending on what part of the country you're
Depending on where, which we talked about earlier. So welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank
for
you
having
for
me.
being here. You live here in San Diego as well. So
I
we
do.
are meeting in La Jolla. This is amazing. I know we can't see it. The shades are down, but the beach is right behind us. So it's not a bad place to do a podcast. But yeah, so thank you for being here with us. And we're here to talk about what you do, your message. I think you know a little about what we're trying to do is basically share what good is happening in the world and how we can make it a better place. So the Surfrider Foundation, right?
Yes.
So what is your position there?
I've got an interesting position. On paper, it's called chapter manager.
Cool.
But we only have 2 full-time staff in the San Diego County, so I get to do, it is octopus lifestyle because I have to do so much, but it's great because I'm really learning, I get so much experience in so many different things. So a bit of a content manager, communications, a lot of admin, logistics stuff, even a lot of fundraising because we do have to stay funded in order to be able to do our work.
Of course.
Just a bit of everything.
So let's take a
Awesome.
step back then and tell us a little bit about the Surfrider Foundation. What do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So Surfrider Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the protection and enjoyment of the world's ocean, waves, and beaches through a powerful activist network. The organization has been around since 1984. Started in Malibu when basically 3 local surfers banded together to fight some development and stuff that was threatening their beach. It was going to make surfers sick and also ruin the wave quality at Surfrider Beach, Malibu, which is a famous California surf break. They won those battles. They started a 501c3 nonprofit organization called Surfrider, and 30-something years later, we've got a really large network of over 150 chapters and youth clubs all around the country.
Wow.
And we're based in San Clemente, so not far from here, about an hour north. And the San Diego chapter, I would say, is one of the oldest and probably the largest and most active. We are the only chapter that has 2 full-time staff. I would say the majority of chapters around the country are 100% volunteer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So within the day-to-day of what Surfrider does, how do you guys really take that mission that you just, you told us and really bring that to the masses? What's the, how do you engage with the community and really drive that message home?
Yeah, sure. So I think what's so cool about Surfrider and what really attracted me to it before I was staff, I was started as a volunteer, is that we do have a national staff, we do have some regional staff, a couple chapter staff like me, but essentially the entire organization is arced around empowering everyday people to protect what they love, which is our ocean, waves, and beaches in this case. And so most of the Surfrider network is volunteers. And then the staff's role really, primarily is to really support volunteers, support activism, and support it locally. So in San Diego County, our chapter, we're really, a group of activists who are fighting local issues. We're really engaged on local issues. And I think that's really important because all of these global problems, climate change, plastic pollution, these big things that when you watch the news or read your Facebook feed of doom and gloom stuff, it kind of seems like you're a little powerless to do anything about it as an individual, these huge international global problems. And so the way we respond is by empowering people to act locally and really get involved and realize that the stuff you can do locally has an effect. You know, it starts here and then it kind of goes up to whether state level, federal
Because if
level,
everyone's
international.
working locally, then what is that? You know, it helps everything. So it makes sense.
Yeah, that's all we are. We're just basically a bunch of passionate small groups of people all over the country in coastal places, kind of doing similar work on whatever those local issues are, and basically piling up those victories and making the ocean cleaner and the beaches better.
So on your website, you guys talk about the 2018 United Nations report that basically says we've got about 12 years before the shit hits the fan.
Oh, and climate change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, the oceans are a big part of that, and we look at carbon dioxide in the ocean. So if we look at that 12 years away, like we've got some serious work to do, boots on the ground. What are the steps that you guys really implement? You know, how do you teach this activism on a local level, and what does that look like for the average person who's like, I want to fix a problem, I don't even know where to begin?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So climate change being kind of the preeminent environmental disaster of our time, Surfrider as a coastal protection organization, we've recently stepped up climate change efforts and trying to really tie in how that affects the coast and the ocean. So if you, for example, if you live in the Maldives, you know, it's an island nation of maybe 370,000 people. Current sea level rise projections are saying that Maldives will be underwater by 2100. In San Diego, we try to make the connection that basically sea level rise has a disastrous effect on our beaches, and most people don't. I think the average beachgoer doesn't realize that. You know, if you're hanging out at the beach, it's so beautiful right here in La Jolla, you know, that beach could be underwater in as little as 30 years due to sea level rise and the fact that we've developed so close to the coast. So a lot of our work, I would say a lot of our work locally is kind of not only, you know, we're trying to encourage individuals to make individual choices to reduce their emissions, you know, bike instead of drive, get a better fuel economy in your car, that kind of stuff that we all can do. But we're really fighting to preserve San Diego's beaches from disappearing. And it's, I would say, one of the biggest issues we have locally. And it's very controversial because people with oceanfront property don't want to leave their homes.
Well, I can imagine. Yeah. And
I don't blame them, yeah.
I just think about how difficult that might be.
Well, we are literally in a house on the ocean.
Yeah.
So
we're right here, yeah.
A 10-foot differential in ocean, and we're doing this in a pool floaty.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about all the pictures that we're seeing of Venice in the last couple of days. You know, obviously that's a city that's
Venice, Italy, or Venice, California?
Venice, Italy.
Because they're both cool.
They're both cool. Venice, Italy being underwater right now.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know that.
And a lot of the people in Venice are talking about like this is truly a function of climate change, that the Adriatic is rising. There's just no way that they can beat back the tides. And this was always something that was inevitable with a city that was built kind of where it is. But we look at all of this building here in La Jolla, the beautiful homes, the beautiful beaches. It's like what can you do? You talk about like it's a big mountain to climb, but what can you do, and what is it the fight that you guys are bringing to the local level to say how do we save our beaches?
Yeah, great question. So what can you do? That's the ultimate question. We basically, so luckily in California we have an important law called the Coastal Act, which was passed in the 70s and created the California Coastal Commission, which is essentially a government body that's charged with protecting beach access, making sure we have beaches, and basically enforcing the fact that in California, the beaches belong to the people. So beaches are public property for the most part. If there's a few like, you know, military operations and stuff like that and stuff that happened pre-Coastal Act, but for the most part, the beaches belong to the people. So in California, we use those laws essentially to protect the beach. So in Northern County, you have a lot of bluff top developments that were built way closer to the beach than they should have on eroding cliffs, right? And sea level rise, it's nothing new. It's been happening for 18,000 years. It's just really accelerated now due to climate change. What property owners and also, I would say, developers typically try to do is build seawalls to protect their properties from damage from the coast. So if you're hanging out in Solana Beach or Malibu is a perfect example, just a lot of beaches in California, you'll be walking on the beach and you'll see these big concrete walls. And if you didn't know any better, you might think that those were built to protect us, but they're really not. They're to protect private property every single time, for the most part. So seawalls are basically illegal to construct now that we have the Coastal Act. And so, but there, a lot of times homeowners and developers are trying to put them up illegally. So we kind of act as a volunteer watchdog on seawall construction. And let me explain what seawalls are. I'm going to do some diagramming here, but hopefully listeners can follow along. If this is a seawall, so just imagine a wall, and then imagine the sand of the beach. You know, the beach is kind of that sandy interface between the land and the ocean, and it's wide in some places and narrow in others. So you've got a cliff or something, and you've built a wall, and then you have your beach, and then you have your ocean. Now sea level's rising, right? So where's it going to go? Where's the beach going to go if we've built sort of a artificial back to the beach? So we've built this wall, and as the sea level rises, it's going to increase erosion of basically sand being pulled out. So we're losing our sand, and the sea level is actually just going to rise to the point where there's no beach. And we can see it every year in San Diego and all over the California, really, during the king tides, which are kind of like the highest tide of the year. Usually happens around December, January. And on that super high tide, we've taken drone photos and stuff, and it's shocking because basically there's no beaches.
Really?
So how do we deal with that? Well, we don't want homeowners putting up seawalls. We don't want development too close to the coast because ultimately it's going to necessitate the need for a seawall or coastal armoring. And we really want we just want to be able to have a space for the shoreline to naturally evolve, and that means evolve landward. The beach is always moving. It's always chipping away at the land and moving landward.
We're getting smaller.
Yeah, exactly. So, the beaches belong to everyone. It's a huge recreational, economical driver for California, San Diego especially. And personally, I don't think that, one or two rows of very wealthy people with homes. Now, I respect the fact that they want to protect their houses. I totally respect that, and it would suck to be in that situation. But the beach for all people is more important, right? It belongs to all Californians. And we are going to fight and not going to let one row of homeowners or one developer or one private property owner to ruin the beach for everyone. That's really what's at stake.
I love that vision. So I have to ask the challenging question, right? Is what do you do with all those people?
Right. So do you
Or what do you do with those homes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you kind of go to them and say, hey, look, this is the situation here.
No,
would you consider
hate us.
moving more inland, and then you take down the house? Like how does this work?
We're not even there yet. We are essentially trying to work with cities, coastal cities, the state, to create basically plans for this kind of stuff. Climate change and sea level rise adaptation plans with scientific triggers. When the tide lines move to a certain point, we need to consider managed retreat. We need to consider these things. And some cities are okay with that, but many cities who, their coastal homeowners, like Del Mar, for example, are, they've got a lot of money, they've got a lot of power, and they've got a lot of sway in the city. It's been a hard fight. It's very controversial, and we're going up against some of the most powerful people in the state.
And that seems like it's a challenging fight.
Yeah.
I would also question, from an insurance perspective, right? At what point does an insurance agency who's insuring that property recognize that that's a losing battle? Because all of a sudden, if you've got, let's just say a couple $1 billion worth of real estate that's all going to wash into the sea as a result of climate change and rising tides, does the insurance company play into this at all?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they should and they will, and that's one of the ways the problem may take care of itself. But we've seen insurance companies, especially federal agencies and stuff, do some dumb things too, like on the East Coast and the Carolinas.
Katrina.
When there's huge floods in very unsafe and flood-prone areas. All the homes are wiped out, and then the insurance gives you settlements, and they rebuild homes in the same place.
Or the insurance company files bankruptcy, and they don't pay out at all. Well, that was Katrina, and that's...
Yeah. But that's not going to happen here, and I think insurance companies are going to start really taking that seriously, and I think cities need to really take it seriously, too. Every coastal city has to have what's called a local coastal plan, and it needs to be updated. and the Coastal Commission.
Which are like the guidelines that people with homes could like need to follow, basically.
Yeah, it's like a plan for development kind of considerations, but also just how we are going to deal with the changing coast and with sea level rise and with other coastal issues. And a lot of cities really are sticking their head in the sand a little bit about it and not dealing with this. And if they don't deal with it, it's, you're going to have a forced evacuation instead of a managed retreat. As bad as managed retreat sounds.
No, it sounds a lot better than forced evacuation.
Yeah, and it sounds a lot better than losing our beaches.
Yeah.
So
what does a timeline look like on this? You guys probably have models and forecast models in place where you're looking at areas like where we're at in La Jolla, and what is this? Is this a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, a 50-year plan?
Well, I think current sea level rise predictions show that by the year 2050, which is not far off, a lot of San Diego beaches stand to lose 50 to 100 feet of their beach.
Wow.
Del Mar did their own study that concluded that their beaches could be underwater by 2060.
Wow.
I
mean, wind and sea here, that's gone. That's gone.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, it's a hard issue to deal with when you really love the ocean like I do. And I think most people in San Diego who support Surfrider and support, what we're trying to do, they want their kids to enjoy the same beaches
of course
that we did.
Right.
And they want to, they want their kids to be able to surf the same waves as well. And when there's too much water and if you don't have a beach and you don't have those kind of geological features that really have taken millions of years to be the way they are, for beaches to be the way they are, you're going to lose we lose our waves, we lose our beaches, we lose everything. We've already done, it's not just sea level rise. If you really want to get scientific about beaches, we've just kind of over-engineered the coast. There's dams and jetties and big harbors, all kind of artificially put on the coast, and also lots of development up rivers. And that's where all the sand comes from. Most of the sand comes from rivers. San Diego a little more because it's kind of a sandy, kind of rocky shore. But we've definitely jeopardized that sand. We're not getting sand like we should. There's that too.
Wow.
Yeah, jinx. I'm thinking two things. One, let's have dinner tonight at Poseidon because apparently that's going to be underwater in a couple of years. This obviously it's a monumental task to undertake, right? It's protecting the beaches, doing everything that you guys are doing. How do people get involved with you guys and help support your initiatives?
Sure. So it's worth noting too, like, if anyone listening wants to get involved with climate action, there's a lot of organizations that are really good at doing, I would say, more general climate action stuff that you would think of. Surfrider, we're an ocean conservation and protection organization, but when it comes to this stuff that we're talking about protecting the beach, we're really one of the only games in town that does this. We do a lot of the other ocean stuff, but this is somewhat unique to Surfrider. So if you wanted to get involved with this, which I would call coastal preservation, get in touch with your local Surfrider chapters and start to learn what the local issues affecting the beach are in your neighborhood. In San Diego, we have a volunteer-led committee called Beach Preservation, and they meet once a month and talk about this kind of stuff. They follow the Coastal Commission. They follow essentially the cities. They follow development permits. They are very much a watchdog organization on coastal developments and also trying to make sure these cities plan accordingly.
You guys are obviously in for a tough fight, right? Because real estate developers, that's capitalism versus,
And everyone wants to move here, right? Like everyone is coming to San Diego or California or whatever, and it's just there's more people being shoved into California and San Diego.
Yeah.
It's like, where do they go? You just expand out, which is, Yeah,
and here's the thing. Dude, we all want to be in California because we love the beach.
Yeah.
Right.
And we are really in a situation where we're going to lose a lot of beach. So this fight that we're fighting, I really want everyone to know about it and support it and be on board because, there's the people who are opposed to us, which are often maybe like property owners or just kind of property rights people. I feel where they're coming from, but we can't afford to lose our beaches. People will not want to come to California anymore. I mean, think about the economic driver that ocean and beach recreation is in California and tourism. It's just not worth it.
Well, this is kind of an interesting, philosophical debate, right? Because it's the needs of the many, outweighing, or the needs of the few outweighing the needs of the many.
It's a very classic case, I would say. It's really the greater good, versus 1% of 1%.
So let's deviate a little bit, because I want to talk about everything else that you guys are doing on ocean conservation. And what are some of the other key things that you guys are really driving for right now?
Yeah. Well, let's get granular and local.
I like that.
If you have heard of Surfrider, you probably think of beach cleanups. That's just my guess. Before I got involved, what I thought of Surfrider is, they do beach. They're the beach cleanup guys, because I've seen Surfrider tents at the beach.
Well, this is what I was going to ask, was as far as like the local help, like the very specific here in San Diego help, is that usually what they're doing, is on the beaches cleaning up, picking up trash, or like what exactly locally are we doing? Like, I live here in San Diego. What would I be doing if I decided to come with you guys one day, or,
let's say you shot me an email, like info@surfrider.sd, like, hey, how can I get involved? I want to volunteer, but I just don't know how. And that's very common. That was the first email I sent,
Right.
I would probably invite you to a beach cleanup. It's kind of the gateway drug for ocean activism. You know what I mean?
Where you drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's where we want you to drink the Kool-Aid, man.
Cool.
And we do over 1,000 beach cleanups annually through our network, all over the coast, Puerto Rico too, Hawaiian coast as well. Here in San Diego, we do probably 100 a year. This year alone, we've had over 10,000 volunteers participate in our beach cleanups.
That's great.
They've removed over 12,000 pounds of trash from our beaches.
Wow.
And just generally, it's very welcoming. It's family friendly. People feel good about it. It's a great excuse to go to the beach on a Saturday morning. And that's all great. And even if it was just going to clean up and that was it, that's a pretty good thing to do in and of itself. But the problems with plastic pollution that our ocean faces are not problems that we can clean our way out of. So if we do beach cleanups, but we don't take it a step further, we're kind of doing a disservice to this issue, in my opinion. So when we do our beach cleanups, one really cool thing we do is we basically give volunteers a data sheet. We say, we want you to pick up trash. Janna and Evan pair up. Janna's going to pick up the trash. Evan's going to tally what you pick up. And we have all the most common items we find.
Like straws or cups or bags or stuff like that. I see.
All those things.
What's the biggest one?
Yes.
Straws.
Plastic bags? Cups?
Cigarette butts. Oh, the worst, right? And they're so gross. They're like literally toxic. The cigarette butts are also, people don't know this, they actually contain plastic.
Do they?
Yeah, and so they don't, they look like foam or they look like a cotton kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's a plastic, it contains plastic, so it doesn't biodegrade readily in the marine environment, and it's literally full of carcinogenic and chemical toxins that have been pulled through from the tobacco and the nicotine. So they're like a little toxic waste.
So that
bomb.
is the number one thing.
Yeah, because just think of and it's crazy because like smoking's not even cool anymore.
And it's not even necessary. like okay, like a cup is like kind of necessary or whatever, or like a bag is helpful. Like we all use those things, but cigarette butts, that's like disgusting, and no one needs that in their life anyway.
It's not cool anymore.
No, even smokers think they're disgusting. So that's the thing. But every time someone smokes, I mean, I hate to say this, but smokers are probably the biggest litterers. And it's not even their fault. It's just
smoking.
It's just kind of like, so I know I'm like, you guys are like health gurus too.
Right.
I mean, we know Surfrider mission doesn't have to do with your own health. It doesn't have to do with whether you smoke or not.
Right,
so we stay away from telling people if they should smoke.
But I honestly had no idea that was like one of the number one things. I just assumed it was like straws or something or bags, but not cigarette.
So, just think every time someone smokes, they usually just flick the cigarette butt, and it's socially acceptable.
We've all seen it.
People do it in movies. Like it's like pop culture. It's like just a thing. So I would challenge anyone listening or you guys, next time you drive your car somewhere and park your car and walk from the street to your front door or work, whatever, just see how many steps you can take without seeing a cigarette butt.
Right.
It's probably less than 10.
So, so let's go back to this. You said that she'd be picking up trash and I'd be doing the
Yes.
tally sheet, which we both know is
Thank
not
you.
accurate.
Yeah.
That's going to be,
You can switch
I'll
off.
be picking up trash.
I'd
She'll-
pick it up.
She's
Just
gonna
give me
be
a glove or
counting.
two, and I'll be good.
So you have these data sheets, and then what do you guys do with that?
Yeah. So first and foremost, you guys did a cleanup. You did this data sheet. That's kind of cool in and of itself. A lot of kids are doing this. So what I'm hoping is that, or what we're hoping as an organization, is that you will already start to sort of piece together what are the things that are polluting the beach the most, and sort of create this. Because I can make a speech and tell you everything you need to do and not do to save the world, but if you kind of figure it out yourself, that's how people learn the best, right?
You pick up 5,000 cigarette butts. You're like, aha.
Yeah. Okay, so we take all the data. Sorry, that was just my little thing there. But we take all the data, we compile it. This is where our volunteers and interns help us do this. And for San Diego, I have this big master spreadsheet. It has 10 years worth of cleanup data. How many pounds a year? How many volunteers? What the top items are? How many items? I know that we've picked up over 40,000 cigarette butts this year so far. I know we've picked up over 30,000 pieces of styrofoam. And I know we've picked up almost 30,000 plastic wrappers.
Wow.
So that's the kind of data that we can use.
And this is all stuff that's just sitting on the beach.
Yeah. A beach cleanup, there's not really any rules, but it's mostly on the beaches. It's on the boardwalk. It might be in the parking lot.
Right.
It's in and around the beaches.
And you said over 10 years, this is the data.
Yeah. The data I just spewed out was this year alone.
Okay.
But I have
I'm curious,
data from 10 years.
each year, is it getting worse? Are there more cigarette butts? Are there less? I'm curious to know if we're seeing more and more trash on our beaches over the years, or.
I would say great question. It's hard to say with our data because our data is not. In order to get that kind of scientific data, you'd have to have controlled studies. So it'd have to be the same amount of volunteers.
I was thinking about that as right.
Basically, what my
what
data
if you guys got
shows-
more volunteers and you're just picking up more stuff, and then
That's what the data shows.
Right.
The more beach cleanups we do, and the more volunteers participate, the more trash we yield.
Right.
So we haven't reached a point yet where there's not trash. Think about, and this is where we're really trying to. This is what we're really trying to push this beach cleanup into. It's really just the first. The beach cleanup is the first segment of the greater plastic pollution initiative. So I keep saying plastic, so just going to throw it out there. Most of what we find at beach cleanups is either made from entirely or contains plastic, and the vast majority is single-use plastic. Plastic stuff like straws, bottles, bottle caps. Take-out food containers, styrofoam cups,
forks and,
bags, things that are essentially made from plastic and they're made to be used once, then thrown away. They have no value, really. So they end up as trash. And you think about how much of this single-use plastic is being sort of dumped on us and our society. We live in a total throwaway society. You can go and you guys go pick up some burritos, come back, we'll probably have 20 pieces of trash just from the salsa cups, the foam containers, the cups, the straw.
You
know what
literally
I mean?
just described our lunch.
Yeah, you.
And that's everyone's. That's like so many of our lunches every day.
Right.
This is so normal that we don't. When something's normal and it's your everyday experience, you don't notice it. Like the whole thing about a frog being in a bottle of water that's boiling or whatever. That's kind of us, right? We just don't even notice it because it's our normal. So the beach cleanups is our first place where we try to get this deeper understanding going. We need to not recycle more plastic. We do. We need to not just throw away our trash or recycle it. We need to use less of it.
Stop fucking making it.
Yeah.
Is it true that recycling is kind of bogus? Doesn't all, from what I've heard, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but from what I've heard is recycling, it's kind of just, it sounds nice and maybe some of it is recycled, but the majority of it is still dumped in the oceans or it's still trash pretty much. I don't know.
Absolutely. This is another thing that we've grown up and just, basically been sort of indoctrinated or spoon-fed that everything's all good. Just throw away your stuff and recycle your other stuff.
Right. Instead of just on the floor, just put it in the trash.
Yeah.
And that's You know,
throw it away. There is no way. And so recycling is better than not recycling,
Totally.
I guess is the best thing I can say about it. But it is very much like a Band-Aid on a severed head. It's just not going to work. And here's the crazy part. I was like, I did this deep dive into recycling and studied it and the creation of it. And recycling was actually in modern recycling, which is very modern. Reusing stuff, that's old school. Just basically having a cup that you use over and over again and you wash it. That's what we're trying to get back to, this old school way of being. Recycling is a modern invention, and it was totally created and sold to the American public by the corporations that were profiting from single-use plastics. Beverage companies, plastics companies, chemical companies. That lobby basically created recycling.
So you could feel better about that one-time purchase.
Well, so you can feel better about it, but so that basically they gave us recycling as a way to stave off any actual regulation on the type of materials they were using. Because at that time, it was like late 60s, early 70s. The milkman used to drop off your bottle and then he'd reuse it. You'd leave it out your doorstep. And society was in this big shift with the plastics boom from a kind of two-way beverages and a lot of two-way reusable things to being one-time use, what we'd call a one-way beverage, like a Coke bottle. And trash really started to pile up in cities, and municipalities and cities are responsible for all the trash. And so they were just basically, a lot of the regulations that we're trying to pass now as Surfrider activists to prevent, to stop using single-use plastic, that was actually starting in the late 60s, early 70s. And the way the industry flipped that on us, so to speak, was to introduce recycling. Because basically they didn't want regulations. They didn't want to say, no, you can't use, you can't do a plastic bottle, or you can't do a plastic bottle with literally 3 different kinds of plastic on it, which is kind of hard to recycle anyway. So, so the recycling is a bit of a...
And then isn't it true that you can only recycle a recyclable only once or, only a certain amount of times? I mean...
Yeah. I mean, paper and plastic only has a certain amount of times you can do. Glass and aluminum is different. It is a material that you can sort of infinitely recycle.
And what I've learned, because I researched this, because I was very interested in like like recycling. I just wanted to make sure that was, because some things you don't know if it can be recycled or not. So I researched it because I wasn't sure. And there are different numbers with the recycle little triangle on plastics or whatever. There are different grades or something. It's like 1 through 9 or 7. I don't know.
It's 1 through 7.
Yeah, and it's very specific, and it can only be recycled a very specific way, and so it's not like, I don't know.
Yeah, and these, to talk more dirt on the industry. These little triple arrow triangle things that say recycle, that basically means it's recyclable. You see that on a lot of products, and then you probably throw those in a recycling bin. There's no regulation on that. I can just create a product and put that arrow on my product. As long as, it doesn't mean it's recyclable locally where you live. So all plastic bags, they might have that recycling arrow. There's literally, I think, 1 or 2 cities in the entire country that actually accept plastic bags in their curbside recycling. And that includes, every kind of wrapper, every kind of plastic film, I guess. None of that gets recycled.
Wow.
And that's just one example. So there, just because it says recyclable, it doesn't mean anything.
So we're obviously not recycling the way that we should. We're a one-use society versus kind of a reuse society, as you said. So all of this plastic ends up in the ocean. And what's the mode of action for that? Because that's the one disconnect I think a lot of people have had when we kind of started talking about this is, well, I put it in the trash, the plastic. It's supposed to go to my landfill. So how do we end up with all of this plastic that goes from the landfill to the ocean?
There's a lot of reasons. I think one of them, it depends what country you're in as well, but just generally speaking, when you make this much throwaway stuff, when we produce this much trash, which is an amount of trash that is completely unmanageable by any recycling system or any landfill system, there's no way to manage the trash we have. So much of it is just going to end up in the environment. That's why going back to our beach cleanup and our data sheet, what I want you two to sort of, I don't know, what I want you to leave the beach cleanup with is not, man, people are such litter bugs. They litter a lot. I don't want you to leave with that. There's not really any action there. What I want you to leave with is we need to stop using so much throwaway stuff. There's too much trash. It's not really a littering problem. That's just a side effect of having too much trash. So first and foremost, source reduction would be the best thing we can do. Secondly, using materials that actually biodegrade in the natural environment, because we're not going to be able to properly dispose of all of our trash. So if, plastic is a very unique material. It's amazing. You can make anything out of it. It's totally helped advance society in ways that we wouldn't be here where we are. We also wouldn't be in this problem. But so, we need to switch from these materials like plastic, which they're synthetically made, they're petroleum based, and they don't biodegrade. That's the problem. It's like Earth can't digest it. Like you're a health food guru, right? So it's like eating something that your body can't digest. So it's only going to do you harm.
You know what I think about too is even if something's biodegradable, once that degrades, is what it degrades into, is that healthy to consume? Because if it like degrades into the ocean or into our soil or whatever, and like the plants absorb it or the fish eat it or whatever, and we eat that, is biodegradable material still healthy or right? Like, do you know? I don't know.
No, it's not.
I haven't really.
Yeah.
I always think about, it's good to have biodegradable things because it's not this like floating around or whatever. But is that? I wonder. I should research that.
No, it's a good question. So if you take a super long view of the universe, I guess everything is biodegradable. You could say plastic's biodegradable because in 10,000 years from now, this plastic bottle will have finally biodegraded. So it's another tricky word that is the industry often uses to make you think something's natural or green or eco-friendly. I think something like paper that's biodegradable is basically the Earth has the facilities to break it down. It's food for something. It has to be, our trash needs to be food for something. And that's more sustainable. I mean, anything that we make is going to have environmental impact. It's just a matter of minimizing it, I think. But yeah, that's a good question about biodegradability. A lot of pollution that ends up in an urban place like San Diego, in a coastal city, one of the main, if not the main thing that pollutes the water is urban runoff after it rains, because we've paved over the entire world. And so, all we have is impervious surfaces. So every time it rains, the stormwater, the basic idea is we need to get all this water into the ocean ASAP. Otherwise, there's going to be flooding and damage. And it takes all this pollution with it, just trash, everything, chemicals, all those drips and drops from our cars, just so much crap. It's that I can't go surf for at least 3 days without getting sick, especially the first flush, the first big rain. Let's say we didn't pave over the entire world, or let's just say we thought of this kind of stuff before we built the world the way it is. There's ways that nature really has an amazing ability to filter out pollution through this idea of biodegradability, of that. There's filters for most natural pollutants. It's food for someone. So if we can slow down that flow to the ocean or somehow use that water in a different way, we'd be killing two birds with one stone. We wouldn't have flooding, we wouldn't pollute our ocean, and we also maybe wouldn't have to import as much water in San Diego, since we definitely use more than that.
Well, even when those rains happen and things do flow into the ocean, you can't surf for a day or 3 days or something.
Yeah.
I mean, even after that, that's still out there. It doesn't just leave either.
It doesn't.
And so it's like, we're just poisoning ourselves here. Like, I think about this and it makes me sad, because it's going somewhere and it's just not vanishing. You think that you throw this into the trash can. Oh, okay. It's gone. Like, it's now out of I did my part. I put it in there, but it's still not really. It's still going somewhere, and it's still not encouraging. I don't know.
I think I was 21. No, I couldn't have been that old. No, maybe it was that old. And my grandmother was over at my house, being the great grandmother she was, and I'd kind of burned a cooking pan. And she's in there scrubbing the heck out of it. I'm like, Grandma, I'll just buy a new one.
Throw it away.
And
right?
I said that, and the look that she gave me was kind of like, half like a half I'm going to kill you, and other half just pure disappointment. And you recognize that's the greatest generation, right? Like, they had the cast iron skillet that served all the family needs, and they had it for 50 years. And so, as you said, we've kind of gotten away from that.
Environmentalism is patriotic. We want to preserve what we have for future generations. So, yeah, and it also just shows, in a certain way, despite the fact that I might, if I'm wealthy, I might have a Prius or like solar panels or all the cool stuff that I can afford, which is great. Not dissing it, it's great. Typically speaking, the more money you have, the more wasteful and the more high your carbon emissions and waste output will be. It's just kind of the way, it's just kind of like a unwritten formula.
I can kind of see that.
Yeah, if you've got disposable income,
right?
You can just throw, when you burn that pan, you just throw it out, get a new one. Who cares? That's kind of like, that's kind of our mentality as a wealthy nation. As a nation that's really embraced this throwaway mentality, that's a big part of the problem, for sure.
Totally. That makes sense.
Yeah. But it's cool to see, a lot of, craft industries and cottage industries, craft brew, cast iron skillets are coming back. All that cool stuff that was kind of cool for our grandparents, it's really coming back and being cool again. And that cultural penetration is really important, in my opinion. I love that. I'm going to grab a beer and it's going to be made in San Diego. I've got cast iron skillets just like my grandparents did that are going to last me for my whole life.
Right.
Having really fewer but higher quality, long-lasting things is the way to go.
I had a doctor once tell me that I worked with on a panel, and he said like the incidence of anemia after we moved away from cast iron got exponentially greater.
Oh.
Because you're getting elemental iron when you cook that way. And
it's a great point.
And I've never really looked that up, but it kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. And then, interestingly enough, we went to hard anodized aluminum, which we absolutely know causes Alzheimer's disease. So we went from now we're iron, we're sufficiently ironed up to now we're cognitively declined.
And that's that health connection is huge. Plastic is literally full of chemicals.
They're like endocrine disruptors, right? Like they mess your hormones, and they do. The health side, it's like it definitely is not healthy.
It's not good. Like plastic is not good for you. It's not gonna kill me, but it's not optimal for my health, and it's definitely making me sicker. There's definitely studies saying connecting it to lower sperm count in men, which has been a thing like over the past few generations. Like male sperm count has gone down.
Right.
Now I'm not going to say it's a fact because I know the scientific method is very, specific for that. But there is, and just think about how much.
It's the octopus lifestyle.
Yeah. We're so reliant on all these chemicals and unnatural things. Even this cast iron skillet thing, I love that because all of these skillet, non-stick pans, it's all like a weird chemical that's on there. And if you burn it at a higher than a certain amount of heat, you're eating that stuff. Yeah. It's not good for you. And you think about, how much where cancer rates are at, and also what's the other one that
Alzheimer's, cognitive decline.
Alzheimer's, but so many kids are being born now. It's
autism.
Thank you, autism. Yeah, like all those rates are up,
right?
And we see, this lifestyle we're living that is very separated from a natural environment, and also just overly reliant on a lot of unnatural and chemical laden things.
It's so true. Yeah, even just like hot liquids and plastic and stuff, I know is not good. I order food from this Thai place quite frequently, and so every time it's like takeout and I take it and go home, I know that the curry that I get is sitting in this very thin plastic thing, and I can just feel it just like warping almost because it's so hot, like this hot soup stuff in this plastic, and I'm like rushing home to pour it in my like glass bowl really quick because I don't want that in my
and there's lots of studies that show. Plastic, it leaches. Look at a plastic water bottle. Water is like the universal absorber of all things, right? Like it definitely leaches into the water.
You were telling me about this. Is it a movie or a documentary about water and like, even like this is kind of I guess like off topic, but like speaking to water or like talking.
Well, it was the Japanese. It was I can't remember the doctor's name, but they did the whole. They looked at the crystalline structure of water, just basic tap water, and then they broke that same water into two separate control groups. And basically, in control group A, they had people come in and yell at the water. Just be like, fuck you, you suck, you're horrible, like I want to kill you. And then in control group B, they're like, I love you. You're awesome. It was affirmation versus the complete opposite. And then they relooked at the crystalline structure, from a microscopic level, and you could see it. And it became this whole art exhibit in Japan where it was traveling all over. And
But it's like if water can absorb emotion and energy like that, of course it could absorb
some plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Just super off topic, but
No, but
not
it,
really,
kind of,
but like,
it kind of all ties
yeah.
together. And now we talk about microplastics, right? Because this becomes the, at what point, I think the study is like by 2025, there's going to be more plastic than fish.
Oh, yeah, 2050.
2050.
Yeah. We use that statistic all the time. Yeah, there'll be more plastic by weight than fish in the ocean, that's not the world I want to live in.
No.
And I'm assuming that accounts for all marine mammals, animals, because a blue whale's pretty freaking big.
Yeah, and those are the guys eating, So let's go back to our beach cleanup and the data and the plastic. And, at the cleanup, we're going to talk a little bit about microplastics, because most kids come out at the beach cleanup, they want to find like the biggest thing. And we want to say, it's not the biggest thing. It's actually the smallest thing that's the most threatening to the marine ecosystem. And that's why we hate styrofoam so much. We're always trying to ban styrofoam because take a styrofoam cup or container. That is like a super accelerated version of how plastic breaks down into microplastics.
Is it actually plastic? Is styrofoam a type of plastic? Or okay, I'm not really sure like what the makeup is of it.
It's plastic number 6 in the little 1 through 7 thing. It's styrofoam is a trademark name for expanded polystyrene foam. So it's mostly air, which sounds good because it's not as much plastic, but basically that one styrofoam cup, because it's so brittle and so light, it can break down into hundreds of thousands of 10,000s of little tiny pieces of plastic in a couple days, because styrofoam is, you can just break it apart.
Well, it hits water, the air goes away, and it's...
Yeah, and that's the same thing that all plastics do in the ocean. They don't biodegrade, but they photodegrade, which means they're broken down by the sun into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. And the pieces of plastic in the ocean are so small that really the better analogy than like the garbage patch would be like a smog. It's more like smog in the ocean. And all of these fish that basically feed on the zooplankton, which is like the basic building block of the ocean, those plastics, they're ingesting them too at a very high rate, because microplastics are now competing with plankton as like the base of the food chain in the ocean.
Oh, so sad.
Which works its way up the entire food chain.
Yeah, it works its way up. That bioaccumulation, it gets kind of worse and worse, actually. So, it's not only mercury that's in fish, it's plastic. And we did a study in San Luis Obispo, just basic Surfrider volunteers went to I don't know if it was Surfrider volunteers, but went to a local fish market and basically bought fish and just cut them open and could find visible plastic in 25% of those fish. And that was like probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, bad news, right? So we learned all that from our beach cleanup. Not quite, but we had a conversation. So what do you do? How do you not feel so like a victim about this and that like it sucks? First making changes in your lifestyle individually, kind of trying to be more zero waste or less plastic, which is admittedly very hard, because if you go to unless you have like a beautiful co-op, health foods, Whole Foods, grocery store with bulk bins and all these things, it's pretty hard to avoid all that plastic because it's just everything's packaged in it. But definitely bring your own bags, get a reusable coffee cup, get a reusable bottle for water. If you're a straw sipping type of person, get a stainless steel or whatever straw. Those 4 things, you can reduce your amount of plastic by, 20, 30%.
Oh,
not
totally.
More. Just by doing those.
Oh,
so
yeah. Even like growing up, I remember in my household, my parent, like we would always buy big like Costco things of water, like just water bottle. And that's like what we would drink. We wouldn't drink from like the sink or whatever. It would just be these bottles of water all the time. How many years of that and how much you throw away, I think about that. I'm like, makes me want to throw up right now. But now it is. But now I use we shouldn't have these on camera. But
these were props. We just needed to talk about them.
Good point.
I'm just over here drinking.
But
mine.
The reusable bottles, like I've been using those for years now, and I know that I've done my part in that way. Funny enough, though, I when I go grocery shopping and like on Instagram, I'll post what I've bought and like a picture of my shopping cart, and a lot of times recently I've had people be like, oh my gosh, so much plastic. Like, how could you even do that kind of thing? And I definitely understand. And I think we all can do, we're I don't know, just do as much as you can, but they also don't know that I'll reuse plastic forks and I only use like plastic containers at home, not plastic Tupperware that is thrown away, or, you know, or I'll reuse like plastic, like Ziploc bags or something. I don't know, there's this balance here, and I recycle everything that I possibly can, but I also use stainless steel straws and I reuse water bottles and even friggin' like plastic forks and stuff like that. But, you know, I don't post about that, but of course the shopping cart that I post about, I get like all this hate and everything. Yeah. I'm like, you don't understand, I'm on your side too. Like I really am. And anyway.
Yeah, I think there's two things come to mind with what you just said. One is, you know, as activists, it's really important to meet people where they're at rather than kind of, you know, I don't know, judging people or trying, you know, if I see you using some plastic stuff, it's really, if I try to put you down for that, how's that going to do any good? Right. That's like more about,
and it's like I have an electric car too. Like I'm doing everything I can, you guys.
So it's really, we want to meet people where they're at and invite them to be part of this movement.
Right.
And that you're getting comments like that is really great, in my opinion, because it's just showing that this consciousness of plastic pollution is becoming mainstream, and to see that happen over the last.
And people care. It shows that people care.
Yeah. You know, I think I used to work at Whole Foods a long time ago, and seeing where the consciousness of organic foods and health foods, how far that's grown into the mainstream in the last 25, 30 years is really cool. And now I'm finally seeing sort of what all that stuff is packaged in, and all the packaging in plastic. Now it's finally starting to catch up. You know, people are starting to realize we don't want all this unnecessary packaging in our food. So,
right.
You know, I don't know where to go with that, but that's what came to my mind when you said that.
Yeah. You know, but I guess I'm just saying, you know, it's our job to do as much as we can to help. I mean, you do what you can. You know, I post my shopping cart and I get all this hate, but you also don't know that I am literally a freak about this stuff at home too. And like, I try my hardest to do my part as well.
And the more you do, the more you can do. That's how willpower works. We tend to think, oh, I'm already doing so much. That's enough. Leave me alone. But for me and for every other activist who's been doing this kind of thing, the more single-use things that I ditch in my life, the more affirmation I give myself for that, the more I feel good about it, and the more stoked I am to do more. So more is more. You know what I mean? Do what you can, and once you've got, you know, a few things checked off the list,
keep going.
See what's next. I'm like, okay, saran wrap. What can I replace saran wrap with? Ziploc bags. Those are easy next level moves.
There's actually a lot of very interesting and new companies coming out with stuff that replaces saran wrap and stuff. It's like this like wax paper or something that's reusable. You just kind of like wash it or wipe it down or something when you need to use it again. But there are definitely options out there that you can replace pretty much everything, even like feminine hygiene products or like whatever. I mean, there's so many options now out there that we're all on the same path here that's trying to help it. So,
well, I think a lot of it boils down to what is the appropriate information. And we talked about this in our last podcast, but there's a lot of disinformation out there. And I kind of think back to right now, like the eco-friendly plastic water bottles that are made from like vegetable oil. Like, it's still a plastic, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, now, again, you know, this is marketing at its best.
Is it any better, though?
Not at all.
It's not any better. Wow. So it's almost just like a marketing thing?
We call it greenwashing. That's the term. Yeah, greenwash.
This is horrible. It's turning like a good thing. It's oh my God.
The whole stuff I was saying about recycling earlier, about how it was kind of like a market concept that the industry created. I would call that the original greenwash. No? One of the original greenwash. But yeah, you know, companies know that consumers want to feel good about what they buy.
Right.
So they always put, now with 30% less plastic or 30% more recycled.
Yeah.
And they make you feel, you know, they know that's going to sell the product. Because
didn't Dasani do that?
Mm-hmm.
There was like a green leaf on their blue bottle or something, and it was something
from corn oil. But it's still.
But that means nothing, right? Like it's literally just like a sales tactic now to make someone feel good about purchasing their product, even though it's still.
This company actually did this. Crystal Geyser they took the cap size down.
Oh yeah, which
used to be a thicker cap.
Which that's good, right? I mean, but I remember that.
You would not believe how many of these caps we find at beach cleanups.
I'm sure.
I mean, how can you when you design a product like this, you can't really blame people for littering it. I mean, it's so easy to lose that at the beach or anywhere. I mean, these things litter parks like it's nobody's business too. Sorry, sidetrack there.
No, but these are the things that we need to talk about. So,
but even like this, like, what if they could just print it on the bottle instead of add another piece of plastic? Like I try and think about.
Well, but it's back to like if you use something reusable, right? Because now you're printing, which has inks, and those inks are getting in the water. So there's, it's a slippery slope. But
oh, we just can't win.
No,
you
it's
guys.
we can win.
That's the thing that we're trying to change, right? Is you can win, and it just takes a little extra effort. But as you pointed out, the effort really isn't that big a deal.
I mean, yeah, on an individual level, there's a lot and I think it's really important for individuals who care about this kind of stuff to start doing those things. Because for me, at least, it made me feel empowered. I'm taking control of what I can control and reducing my impact. And that was really the first thing to empower me into becoming an activist and doing more. So control your controllables is really important. After that, you start to say all those things you were saying, Janna, about like, why can't they make it without this extra piece of plastic here? How come this cap has to be not attached, or whatever these ideas are that we can think of to make a product more sustainable? That's the next level of what we use that beach cleanup data for. We essentially have volunteers who are doing policy activism. In San Diego, for example, this year, we took all that data from our beach cleanups and we found a champion on the city council. We basically, helped draft a bill, or not a bill, it's an ordinance if it's local, to ban styrofoam takeout containers and to make it required that if you get a straw or a plastic utensil, it would be on request only. And we were able to drum up the support and get that passed in the city of San Diego.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. So, and it's volunteers. Volunteers did this. I mean, everyday people.
Great.
That's what's so cool. And if there's one thing that anyone listening takes away from this, is that you don't have to be a marine biologist. You don't have to be a specialist. You don't have to know everything about this stuff to make a really impactful difference. And that kind of new ordinance and that activism and that achievement is going to create a situation when we do our beach cleanups, there'll be less to pick up. And that's the goal. We don't want to do beach cleanups. We would like to not have to do beach cleanups. So we need to turn that data and that kind of that stoke that people come out and feel good about that. If everyone could basically contribute the same 2 hours that they did at a beach cleanup to maybe writing their local representative or trying to talk about some ordinances or regulation that would reduce the amount of trash coming into our society and ending up on our beaches and our ocean, then the world would be much better off. So that's the end result.
So that's kind of cool because you've just tied a loop around it, right? Like you take that data and you create actionable, you create action, and then that action allows you to free up the resources to then go back and kind of escalate what it is that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Everything we use, all the data from our beach cleanups is essentially poured into, it's the ammunition for activism to prevent our beach and ocean from getting trashed in the first place. And I know, regardless of your politics, whether you think government should be stepping in on this or not, because that's what it usually comes down to at these city council meetings is, we have a responsibility to protect, just like, the people who oppose our styrofoam ban or our plastic bag ban or straw ban, they think it's government run amok. They think, that we're stepping on our freedom to use these materials, or it's our freedom for convenience. I think the freedom to enjoy clean water and healthy beaches far supersedes the freedom to use a cheap styrofoam container.
I like the freedom to not get cancer.
Yeah, freedom to not get cancer, freedom to take your children to the beach and not get sick.
Right.
Those are important freedoms.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Well, and it's funny because it's always pushback, right? People don't like things taken away, but ultimately, like the plastic bag ban for weeks, that's all you'd hear about. Like I'd go to the grocery store and people freaking out, and then now it's like
it's just everyday thing.
No one cares.
No one cares. They're like it's yeah. So
what's that called? Like there's some study on like how psychologically this affects people, and definitely taking things away is bad. Like people react to if you take something away from me, it's much worse than if you offered to give me something or do something bad to me. I had styrofoam, now you're taking it away. Oh my God, the government's trying to take my styrofoam away.
So here's what you do is you go and you offer the environmentally friendly alternative, at a fraction of the cost, and then you jack the price of styrofoam up so high that the choice becomes apparent.
That would require a lot of government intervention.
It would, right?
But I like it because essentially, as the free market system is, plastics are super cheap because the price doesn't reflect the cost to the environment, and really all that cleanup and all the pollution and sickness that comes from it. We pay it. We pay for it. That's a cost that individuals bear, that taxpayers bear. So the price doesn't reflect the cost, and I think that's an important
generational dissidence where we don't accept the cost now, but we pass it on to the future generations. And the same is true. It's like, look at your Big Mac or your whatever. It's like, that might be really cheap food, but when then you look at the cost of treating cardiovascular disease and diabetes and all that, so all of those pass. I love the saying. It's the bill comes due at the end. You're going to pay for it.
Well, it's about being preventative instead of just like you can either that's in the health industry. It's kind of like, okay, pay up front for good quality healthy food instead of paying for your medications and doctor's visits and like cancer treatment or whatever years down the road. It's like it's going to be expensive either way, kind of thing. Like
one way is better though, and dude, the same analogy works for all this ocean stuff. It's like. Right now, there's a lot of buzz around ocean cleanup efforts and getting the plastic out of the ocean and beach cleanups and all that. Stop it from getting into the ocean in the first place is cheaper, easier, and much more practical. I mean, I hate to burst everyone's bubble, but these ocean cleanup efforts, it's impossible. I mean, you can definitely get a lot of trash out of the ocean, but when you have microplastics that are the same size as plankton, there's no way to get that out of the ocean without killing ocean life too. There's just no way.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah, it's worth like a ton of cure.
But think of it but we just don't know how to market this properly, because you're sitting here with a really cool reusable clean canteen bottle. And you probably spent $20 on that, right, or somewhere.
Well, I got it for free because it's a Surfrider bottle.
Okay.
Yeah, they are expensive.
They're expensive, but then how much is that 99-cent plastic bottle that?
Right.
So, but we do not teach people to think in a macro world. We think micro. Like,
right.
oh, well, that's $20, but I can get that. Oh, but if
it's like, you're saying this is $20 and I have to carry it around everywhere when I can just go buy a water for $1 when I'm thirsty somewhere. But
at the end of the year, you're going to have spent much more on those water bottles.
Absolutely.
It's investment. It's all about investing.
It's so true. And you have to think about long term. Like that's the thing here is you have to think about the consequences in the long term after.
And it's a social issue as well, and an environmental justice issue, because if you're moderately well off, then you have the disposable income to invest in those things. Like I'm by no means a rich guy, but I'm not. I'm fed. I can feed myself. I can pay my rent. So I got a really cool water filter that was probably $250 at my house that I love, and I don't have to ever buy any water.
Right. But and it's filtered and nice and probably
filters
reverse osmosis and alkaline and all this good stuff. And
and it was like, for probably $300 all in. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. So that investment has paid off in dividends. But if I was a really poor person who was struggling to just put food on the table for his family, it's harder for that person in that situation to make those investments.
It's very true. But then again, if you look at the long term, you're like, wait, that might have been financially a better choice anyway. So
I might get my ass kicked for this one, but that same person who's and we see this a lot is struggling to put food on the table, but still has the brand new iPhone. Like, where are our priorities, right?
Right. Exactly. That's a good point.
Managing costs.
It's true.
It's hard. Looking at things as investments and long-term benefit and stuff like that. It's hard. We are kind of trained to just live in the here.
Well, and let's be honest, right? The investment in our planet is the ultimate investment. Whether you have kids, whether you don't, whether you believe in the science, which if you don't, then we're going to have another conversation. But
regardless, we can't enjoy that if the Earth is not here. So
absolutely,
and let's make the Earth here.
And based off what you guys are doing, we cannot continue to be really bad surfers if the beaches are gone.
Exactly.
And if the beaches are gone and the waves are affected by the lack of beaches, which they will be, we're all going to be bad surfers. So there's not going to be a beach to hang out on, and there's not going to be good waves to surf.
Right. You better get really good at cardio, because then you can't crawl to the beach to relax for 5 minutes between your sets. Exactly.
So I think that was probably a pretty roundabout but good overview of at least some of this climate change, coastal preservation stuff we're dealing with, and then also some of this plastic pollution stuff we're dealing with. We do a bunch of other stuff too.
So that's a great time to wrap up then. So how do people follow you guys on the local chapter?
Yeah, so if you're coastal in the U.S., you can just go on surfrider.org and you can probably find your local chapter. If you're not coastal, there's plenty of non-coastal and inland organizations doing this kind of work with a more inland upstream focus. If you're in San Diego, surfridersd.org. Definitely check it out. We really try to keep the website pretty updated with a lot of facts, a lot of information, but a lot of volunteer opportunities. A really fun, cool events calendar with lots of events, and it's all about making it fun. Surfrider's mission is to protect and enjoy our ocean waves and beaches. So we want to be the ones who are stoked. We want to be the ones who are positive. We want to make people feel welcome. We don't want to make people feel guilty. We want to meet them where they're at, and together, become part of this movement. Right,
with lifestyle changes and even just beach cleanups like that together, that can make a lot of impact.
Absolutely.
There. So.
And if you're really busy and you don't have time to volunteer, you can always donate and support the people who do.
Exactly.
And that's another way to give back as well.
Wonderful.
Guys,
well, Mitch, thank you.
Yeah, and listeners, we like to throw out our calls to action, but this is a great organization. We love the beaches, Janna and I. That's part of what we're doing here for ocean conservation. So our call to action is open up your wallet, spend a weekend with these guys, dig deep, because this is a big one, right?
This is real life.
This
is our world.
I want my daughter to be surfing these beaches when when she's 20. So,
or just to have access to clean water and healthy beaches. Those are not just fun, but just more necessities of our life. And I think donating's great. Following us on social media is great. We're at Surfrider San Diego. And then there's just at Surfrider for the main organization. And if anyone who's listening wants to get more involved and be a volunteer, that's what Surfrider is here for. If there are issues where you live locally that are affecting the ocean negatively, reach out to your chapter. Really, what we exist for is to be a vehicle for everyday people to make changes, to protect what they love, which is the coast. So, yeah,
love it.
Well, any other questions, Evan?
No, that's enough. But I think we'd love to have you back to talk more about what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And,
sure. Anytime. I mean, if you guys are in San Diego, hit me up.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I always try to make time for this kind of stuff.
Well, Mitch, thank you. Thank you for being here. Sharing the
thanks for having
message.
me.
All the education. Love it.
Yep.
My pleasure. I hope people enjoy it.
They will.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Life to the Max podcast with your hosts,
Evan DeMarco
and Janna Breslin. Clown College over here.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Make sure to follow us on iTunes or whatever platform you guys use to listen to podcasts. Give this one a 5-star review. We'd love to hear more comments, questions. Send those to us at any of the social media things located in the show notes, and we'll definitely put Surfrider info in the show notes as well. Until next week, make it a great one.
We'll see you later.